Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to 5 Minutes of Management. I'm Frank Kalman here with Rick Bell. Rick, what do we got going on? We got Workforce Focus still coming up, right?
Workforce Focus, November 9th in Boston at the Ritz-Carlton. And be there because we've got an awesome lineup. And if you go to workforce.com, you'll be able to see everybody who's going to be on the dais that day and talking about all things benefits and HR technology related.
That's right. We also just wrapped up Workforce Live in Chicago at the Hard Rock Hotel. I thought it was a pretty great success. Quick thoughts on Workforce Live Chicago?
Man, it was, every speaker I thought was excellent. But the thing that really captured my attention was just how engaged the audience was.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everybody was taking notes. So all the speakers were good and made a lot of really good points that people can take away some great information from. So if you ever get a chance to go to a Workforce Live event, definitely do it.
Awesome. Yeah, we got Workforce Live coming up. Probably by the time this video airs, admittedly, will have just happened in Dallas on October 27th. But Rick, we also just went to a little of an HR event ourselves.
We sure did.
We went to the HR Technology Conference and Exposition out in Las Vegas.
Yes. And it wasn't blazingly hot like it was during SHRM.
No, it was not.
The weather was good. It was actually a little bit rainy, and then it cooled off, and then it was really nice. But you know, a couple of takeaways, Frank, that I had from the show was, and this is what I came away with last year too, was just the integration of HR technology and benefits.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just kept seeing it over and over. And there were a few new organizations there, but I really thought that companies like Limeade, who we met with during the Meet the Editors session, which we appreciate everybody who showed up for Meet the Editors. But I thought Limeade was really interesting, and I some of the other organizations, Be Swift, spent some time with them. Don Garlitz was really cool to talk to. So yeah, no, I still see that, and it's an emerging part of the industry, and that is definitely not going to go away and is going to keep growing.
No doubt. I think the biggest takeaway for me had to do a little bit less with technology and just sort of a concept in general. I met with Glassdoor. A lot of people know the employer reviews website and job board. They recently hired about a year ago a chief economist, a guy by the name of Andrew Chamberlain, to come on board. He's a PhD in labor economics, spent some time in the Washington, D.C. think tank scene, but basically they're asking him to come on and evaluate all their data they have about jobs. And Glassdoor has amassed quite a stockpile of data, from employer reviews to salaries to open positions to job postings, you name it. They've got tons of it. So they're bringing in a chief labor economist to come in and cut all this data up and present some really interesting reports and forecasts. And in my talks with Chamberlain, they're hoping to compete with the BLS when it comes to the jobs numbers, and hopefully, their reports are cited as widely as the government. So that was a big takeaway for me. A company like Glassdoor, other technologies companies as well, are taking on these economic, frameworks and sort of putting them to use. So,
yeah, extremely ambitious.
Yeah,
extremely
very
ambitious. But I said in the session with you that Andrew spoke, that basically he was the lone panelist on. And he cited that example about Costco that I thought was really interesting, and how the analyst was really down on Costco because they were somewhat people-centric and spending money on people issues as opposed to product or whatever. But and Andrew, I thought, did a great job just cutting through and talking how important it is to have people to devote money and time and resources to your people. So I thought that was a really interesting part of his talk, especially coming from an economist.
Yeah, no doubt. So yeah, HR Tech, pretty successful this year. I had a good time. Like you said, it wasn't too hot. Met a lot of great vendors, met a lot of great companies. You'll probably see more to come from HR Tech. Rick, I know you had a couple blogs up on workforce.com, so be sure to check those out to see more about what Rick had to say about HR Tech. But I think, Rick, we got some other interesting tidbit. Steve Ballmer kind of throwing some flames on the fire there.
Right. How about that? So he was on Bloomberg TV on Friday morning, the 23rd, and he's speaking about how people, the story that ran about Amazon a few weeks ago about their culture, that he buys into it a little bit because and what he said was that he sees people going across Lake Washington and then bouncing back within a year or so, and it's just like he kind of agrees with the New York Times story that a lot of people really criticized, and I think people even internally criticized.
No doubt. Worth keeping in mind, Steve Ballmer, former CEO, I don't know if he has a chairman title, but at any rate, big bias there. And, it wouldn't surprise me to find out that things also worked the opposite way, too, that a lot of Amazon employees were going to Microsoft, and then, maybe after a few months or a year or so, realized maybe that culture wasn't for them and that they preferred Amazon. I think when you've got two companies that are so, heated and competitive in the same market, not just on a product level, but also just for talent, engineering talent, I'm sure you're going to see a lot of both sides of that story. So, interesting commentary from the now owner of the Clippers. But, just, some more fodder on that Amazon Workplace story. And actually, real quick, Jay Carney, who, former press secretary for the Obama administration, now working, I think his title is something like head of corporate global affairs or whatever with Amazon. He came out and published a pretty stern rebuke to the Amazon story in the New York Times, basically saying that the New York Times didn't really do a lot of their due diligence in terms of the credibility of some of the sources that they interviewed and just some other things. So if you have a chance to check that out, that's worth balancing your perspective if you have read the Amazon story.
Yeah, but again, then you got somebody like Steve Ballmer coming out and saying something almost completely opposite, that and coming at it from a very anecdotal point of view. So one man's opinion, another person's opinion, and a big story in the middle.
Yep, usually the truth is always somewhere in the middle.
Yes, it is.
So that's all we've got for this week's edition of 5 Minutes of Management. Be sure to check out Workforce Focus in Boston on November 9th. We also got the Workforce Live Fall Season Digital Edition November 19th. So lots of cool content coming your way from the Workforce crew. For Rick Bell, I'm Frank Kalman. We'll see you guys next week.